Welcome to Evangelicalish, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American evangelical church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. And make sure and stay current on ish happenings on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Evangelicalish. That's evangelical with an ish. Now to Paul, Jeremy, and April on this episode of Evangelical-ish.
Welcome into the podcast. It is Evangelicalish. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Paul.
And I am Janice.
Yes, you are.
I love extra. It's so good. So back at it again. Another awesome week. Janice co-hosting. April is out on sabbatical. Big life changes happening for her and her spouse, and she's chasing some big goals, writing a book and doing all this really great stuff. So we're super excited for her, but she's on sabbatical. And in the meantime, and in between time, Janice filling that seat for us. And we're super grateful for that. Great conversation last week. If you didn't get a chance to listen, go back on the podcast, subscribe on your favorite platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those places, and leave us a 5-star review and tell people why they should be listening to the Evangelicalish podcast. Share it around a little bit. Man, tonight we got a full episode, so I want to keep the housekeeping that short.
And one other housekeeping note is, yes, I did say we were going to be off this week. I lied. Here we are. It's next week.
So
I read the calendar wrong.
Evangelical of you.
So, listen. I hate to tell you how dark and hot hell is going to be, but
After I get stoned, right?
yeah, now we have to stone you. Like we can't not at this point. Like your prophetic word was pretty decent. Like, I mean, Janice definitely outkicked you. Like, there's no doubt about it. Thou shalt not lie. Yeah, but you broke one of the 10 commandments. So like you should be smitten already. So I guess we're gonna stone you.
I just have to tell you guys, I am an American Christian. So therefore, the Old Testament only applies to me when I want it to apply to me. It applies to you all the time, but it only applies to me when I want it to apply to me.
Yeah. Only when
He's
applicable.
got it there. Them's the rules.
Them's the rules.
That is true.
Them's the breaks.
Especially for a pastor. Like,
Yeah.
I know how to interpret my Bible.
We didn't know name it and claim it was like the legal system, but apparently
It's funny. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm almost crying inside because it's so true. And Kate in the comments here on the live recording is saying, well, hello from Texas, where kids get shot for trying to get into the wrong car. And, it's almost sometimes like we have to laugh to keep from crying, but I can't, you can hardly keep track of the outlandish shooting story from each day or from the crazy Christian cover-up of the day.
Yeah, well, I was just speaking with yesterday a journalism student at University of Central Florida, who may be in the chat somewhere tonight. I think she had mentioned she may tune in and hang out with us tonight. Anyway, Emma, and she's actually writing a story on gun violence and the new open carry policy in Florida, and just how affected Florida students have been over the past several years because of all the gun violence that's happening inside of their schools. And so just kind of wanting a different faith perspective on that. And listen, it is devastating right now, the amount of gun violence that we're facing.
I don't know, Janice, how do you keep your happy self going in all of this?
yes. I mean, yeah, laughing to keep from crying, but also crying when I need to.
Yeah.
And feeling it and letting it sink in. Because I think, I've been on this show for 3 weeks, and there's been a shooting in the news every week. And even thinking about, so Ralph, Caitlin, and then these teenagers in Texas. So that's like all this week. But then also realizing that these are we're hearing about them because they made it to the news. But that is in no way an indication that like these are actually strange occurrences. This is happening every day.
Yeah.
And so it's making the news right now. It's a hot topic and it's like a trend, unfortunately. But yeah, this country is not great. We're not doing great.
No.
Yeah, we're here. Like we exist at this point.
And then then they have the NRA conference last week. Like how do you sleep at night? I mean, I can't think of the guy's name who's the head of the NRA, but it has to be one of the most evil people on earth. And he looks like it too. But what is that guy's name? The NRA head.
Wayne.
Oh, that's right.
Wayne LaPierre.
Wayne LaPierre. You got it. So every once in a while we talk about.
Why do I know that?
Yeah. Also, that wasn't like Wayne Smith, or like Jones. Like, know that guy. Wait a minute. Hang on. You're in the NRA.
We talk occasionally about people we would like to punch in the face. That guy has a very punchable face.
Let me tell you how they sleep at night. You asked the question, how do they sleep at night? With a 45 under their pillow, just like my grandpa said he used to. Okay, that's how they sleep at night, and they don't, because they don't care. That's the problem. Is like
because that pillow is stuffed with dollar bills.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. They do not care. People keep asking how many kids have to die before they care. And I am now at the point where I don't think there's ever enough. Like I don't think it ever matters to them. Like they have just decided that this one thing that was so ancient, as far as like the amendment being written itself and what weapons looked like and technology and the volatility of the government at the time, what all of those things looked like. And now it's so archaic, but they have just decided that usurps everything else. And that includes the safety and security of our teachers, our kids, anybody in a grocery store, at a front door. Like it's insane. It is absolutely insane.
Because this country isn't for the people. It is for the money. Like this country has always been an industry, a business, and has always put productivity over people. Has always put just production over people. And like we've never done anything to halt that tradition, to change things up. And so it's a death cult. And like all you can do is just keep going. Because it's always been about the money. That is the God of this country. And whoever has to be sacrificed on that altar, so be it.
Yeah. Lori says LaPierre has a base annual salary of $1,008,074. Yeesh. And then, our right-wing Christian friends will use Luke 22. Well, Jesus told them to go sell their cloak and get a sword. He told them he's a Second Amendment guy.
So everybody go get swords.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, actually. I think it's fantastic. We should have dueling back.
I always say the founding fathers were right. Everybody should be allowed to own a musket. I agree. Get as many muskets as you want to get.
Yeah, actually, okay, I'm just going to say, I think that's a great idea because most of these gun enthusiasts don't know how to use a black powder musket and they're going to end up hurting themselves instead, which I guess in the exchange, like you win a Darwin Award. Congratulations.
Yeah. And the really sad truth is most guns in a home end up hurting somebody who lives in that home more often than not. But
don't come in here with your facts and your statistics.
Logic.
Well, this wasn't even a topic we were bringing to the show, but I think it's worth delving into. And I do a thing on my social media called "Things Christians Say the Bible Says That It Doesn't Actually Say," and Jesus is not saying sell your cloak and get a sword. If you read the whole passage, he then says that he says this to fulfill prophecy, that he would be counted with these bad people. And then somebody says, "Oh, look, we've looked around, and amongst us we have 2 swords, Jesus. We're going to face a legion of Roman soldiers. We have 2 swords." And Jesus says, "That's enough. 2 is enough." He does not say, "Everyone go get a sword." He says, "We need a sword to fulfill prophecy." And they're like, "Well, we have 2 of them. Okay, good." Nothing about self-defense against the government in that passage. In fact, just a few verses later, he tells Peter, "Hey, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, brother." So, guys, the Bible, Jesus was not a Second Amendment right-wing extremist at all. He wasn't even American.
He was white and American, though, as we all know.
That's right. That's right. Blonde hair, blue eyes, looked a lot like George Washington, actually. Yeah.
So here's the really shocking news from the week, though. Everything you hear on Fox may not exactly be true. Shocker, I know. But they were going to trial with Dominion voting systems, and they made a little deal to keep their propaganda spreaders from testifying. I want to pop this video in. This is the attorneys for Dominion talking about the settlement that Fox News will pay to avoid trial with Dominion voting systems.
Voting systems. The truth matters. Lies have consequences. Over 2 years ago, a torrent of lies swept Dominion and election officials across America into an alternative universe of conspiracy theories, causing grievous harm to Dominion and the country. Today's settlement of $787,500,000 represents vindication and accountability. Lies have consequences.
787.5 isn't going to break Rupert Murdoch, but it's a shit ton of money.
That is so much money.
So why would Fox News be willing to pay that amount of money to avoid a trial with Dominion?
Well, I am personally probably not a good person to ask on this because I am certifiably not Fox News material. But I think that I think that it's very clear that a couple of things. Number one, they know that they have zero leg to stand on in court. But then the second thing is that they can now spin this, to point fingers at, the libs who are running the judicial system and the justice system and the this and the that. So it was a well thought out settlement for them to not have to show the man behind the curtain with all the stuff, but then to also they're going to spin this. Like, they will absolutely spin this. And what's really sad is people will eat it up.
Yeah. Since their minions live in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, so Dominion was asking for $1.6 billion. From everything I read, it's defamation, libel suits are almost impossible to win against a media outlet. Our laws are so made to allow the press to do whatever the media is going to do. And so in some ways, and I think Fox News was trying to play the wait it out game and see if it would all kind of fall apart or Dominion would get scared. 787.5 million is a lot of money. And I think, yes, the crazy Christian Fox News 24/7 follower, this isn't going to impact them. But I think there's a whole bunch of other people who are like, clearly they did not want Sean Hannity to be on the stand being asked about the falsehood of his work.
Could you imagine Tucker Carlson having to testify in some kind of intellectual conversation?
I've dreamed about it.
It sounded like like you really dreamed about that.
I mean, already, I think Fox News fucked this up by not settling sooner, and so we already got a whole bunch of really bad stuff. That we know. And again, that real hardliner, it may not impact, but I think, we can look at this from that perspective. But I'm interested to, Fox News ought to be called CNN because it is the Christian news network. And although the really crazy ones, I guess, have gone to OANN now because Fox isn't crazy enough for them. But how did we get here? If Christianity is a religion that says seek truth and truth will set you free and guard your heart and pursue wisdom, how did we become the minions of Fox News?
Oof.
Stumped you all.
It's like all these conversations are the same conversation, and it's like this is, as much as all these things, every time anything happens, and we always say this isn't who we are. This isn't who we are. No, this is who we are, and it's who we've always been. And it's even with Fox, like, how do they shouldn't even be able to call themselves Fox News, or it should have to have an asterisk or something there. But it's like the
Fox
fact
News.
that
Quotations.
we play along with them. Like, why do they get to be in the White House press briefings? Why do they, why aren't the real journalists saying, no, we're not gonna play these games? But because we have to, we have to respect both sides, and we have to have everyone here, and we don't want to rile these people up. Like, we know they're being lied to, and we know that they're being given bad information, but we also don't want to upset them. So we'll just all play nice. And yeah, like we hold to rules and we hold to standards, but they don't. And so they just keep get to do whatever.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, no. I was affirming what she was saying. I agree. What were you going to say?
President Obama tried to kick Fox out.
Yeah.
And CNN and the other media outlets came to Fox's defense. And I get it to some degree, because, then does Donald Trump kick ABC out or NBC, and so that fealty to free press sometimes makes things get a little messy. And in some ways, it's all, it's like, if the people of America want to be duped by a Fox or an OANN, there's not a lot we can legally do about it. And in some ways, that's just part of being free. That's going to be hard to stop. So I've always said I think Fox became what it is in part because they used pretty women in short skirts sitting on couches to do the news, and Christian men were like, hell yeah. Oh wait, nobody's looking. Hell yeah. I can do this in my house and watch news porn. It's amazing.
You are running a lot of things for me tonight. I feel like you have shared so much. The dreams that you're having about Tucker Carlson, and man, I don't know. I'm just saying. Not saying, just saying. But No,
Am I the only one that noticed that?
no, you're
Fox had
1,000%.
pretty
not.
women in short skirts on there.
Yeah, listen. If I had $1 for every Tommy Lahren knockoff on social media and all the other, you know what I mean? Like,
They didn't have
Yeah,
Kimberly
I love her.
Guilfoyle on
She's
Fox
still
News
on
because of her brilliance, you know.
yeah, right.
Wow.
we are treading in some interesting water at this point, I think, and so I'm gonna doggy paddle us back toward the shore and just go to say, yeah, I think NewsGuard is watchdog of journalistic integrity. Yeah, but. Yeah, the Onion. Some of these comments are rolling in and they're pretty funny, but I think that maybe the answer to this is not who do you not allow to be in there, but maybe to just whittle it down to like the White House press corps, whittle it down to a handful of Associated Pressers or like an NPR, somebody, and I feel like the AP makes a lot more sense. They're just gonna, here's what was said, here's some information surrounding it. It's the news. Do with it what you want, and then go to your favorite tinfoil hat crazy place to hear the spin. But I think if it was more about like, hey, we're not going to say, oh, no Fox or, no MSNBC, because that's just going to turn into a polarized mess as well. But if it was, hey, we're only going to allow like maybe a handful of 5 Associated Pressers to be a part of the White House press pool, and they're going to give the facts, like maybe you got a guy who leans a little bit right, maybe you got somebody else who leans a little bit left, that kind of thing, but they're tied to journalistic integrity. Then at that point, like OAN can pick it up and talk all their bananas and whatever. But at the end of the day, like the things that are coming directly out of the horse's mouth are going to be the facts and the information surrounding it. So I think it just needs to be readjusted, because I think the press is too broad anyway.
But all that's so boring, Jeremy, and people would have to read and think. And I want to be entertained. Give me what I want to hear the way that I want to hear it.
Yeah.
And make it snappy. So
make it, yes. And it's the TikTok culture, isn't it? Like, I want something that grabs my attention, preferably 15 seconds, maybe 60 if you're really saying something. But like, I think it's really funny how we've watched culture devolve as social media has like devolved. We started out with things like, what is it? Zanga, and MySpace, like early on. Things were like, to run a MySpace, like you basically had to know how to code a website, like all this kind of stuff, and like fill out, tons of information and blog and like all this stuff. And we went from that to like Facebook, and then to Instagram, and then Twitter. And then now it's just like, shoot the stupid video of you like chucking a milkshake through the, the drive-through window at McDonald's. Like, we are just falling apart. And that's how people want their news too. They want their news to be the milkshake through the window.
Yeah. Again, we're not doing great.
Well, and in some ways, I do check headlines every day, but I am some resources feeding me headlines that are built into an algorithm, and so what's really important is that we have to want to know truth, because we're not going to ever get back to having ABC, NBC, and CBS as our only news sources. That ship has sailed. So we have to have a people that say, so I see a headline, it makes me go, what the fuck in the morning, and I'm going to make a video about this. So I make sure that I at least go to Reuters or BBC or NPR or even USA Today is fairly, I try to, and I may even go look at Fox to see kind of what everybody's spin on it. And usually I can then sort of meld all that down into some version of the truth. And I can say, yeah, MSNBC is adding its spin on it, Fox is adding theirs, but the truth is somewhere in all of this info, so that I don't go out and, do something stupid and say this is happening. And it's like there was a headline out, the NRA was banning people from bringing guns in the other day, and I thought, oh, I'm going to make a video about this. Well, it turns out it was only when Trump was speaking, which is still ironic, by the way, but the Secret Service said, no, nobody's bringing in guns when Trump is speaking. And if I hadn't looked at other resources, I would have gone out and said, the NRA is doing this. So try to find a different amount of resources before you start, dropping in your pants about something you read. And that takes a desire to want to know truth.
Yeah. And you're preaching to the choir. Like, I think that's part of what leads people to being evangelicalish, right? Like, actually wanting truth, and then running up against like, oh, well, I'm seeing this, I'm feeling this, but this is what they're saying their interpretation of this is, and I don't know about that, so let me go do my research, let me do my work. And yeah, there are a lot of us out here who do read and who do the work and are trying to sort things out, but it's, what's that old saying about, like a rumor, can go around the world before the truth can get its pants on. And it's like the bad news, the fake news, the milkshake through the window just travels a lot farther and faster than we can come behind it and say, wait, here's what's actually going on. And people have already gotten in their feelings and gotten riled up and, have decided they know what the truth is. And you're just trying to, you're following your itching ears and whatever. And people just get so stuck into their mindset. And it's like, you really can't do anything until whatever the chink in their armor is that gets them to think about something different. But there's really nothing we can do except continue on our path and hope they come along at some point. But
well, and it may take cultural collapse for that to happen. But I like that you mentioned the itchy ears, because Christians talk about that all the time of progressive and deconstructing. Oh, you're just chasing what satisfies your itchy ears. But I think Fox News is emblematic of the desire of Christians. Unfortunately, research for Christians mean I watch Fox News, then I go to some conspiracy theory website, then I read QAnon drops, and then maybe Christianity Today for my really liberal spin. So they're never getting outside their own echo chamber to try to find out anything that's going on.
Well, I did check out this Christianity Today article.
Yeah, Christianity has really gone liberal, though. Really gone liberal.
Ever since they tried to take down Mark Driscoll. Yeah. Because what pastor doesn't like whooping ass on MMA? Okay. Yeah. I think that's really good. It's just. And I do that too, Paul. I occasionally will peruse, especially if there's a big headline like Fox News or somewhere like that. I will absolutely not go to OAN or Newsmax, because that's just like, it's like the like the National Enquirer or something, on the grocery store stand. Like, do they not know that there's like, no, Princess Diana was not working at Burger King last night. Like, but, I do think it is important.
But Elvis and Tupac were working at McDonald's last night.
No, he was. Elvis is dead. Tupac is in the Caribbean, minding his business. He gave the culture enough. Okay. Don't defame Tupac that way, Paul. Just kidding. But I think that ultimately is the issue is that so few people are being driven by their emotions. And I think that comes from that evangelical culture of like emotional manipulation drives decisions for them.
Yep.
And it used to for us as well, right? Like it's why there's the smoke and the lights and the, you know, the E minor you know, pads underneath the worship song. Like it's all about emotional manipulation. It's why, you know, we fire up the pads when the pastor's finishing his last couple of paragraphs of his sermon, because you know, I want to draw you in. I want to be attention grabbing and make you make decisions on emotion. It's why the big cry night, salvation night at youth camp is on Thursday after you've like physically exhausted kids for like 4 straight days. It's all of those things. And what a lot of these places have figured out, and on the right and the left both, is if you just appeal to people's emotions, they will go off half-cocked. They will shoot from the hip every single time. And that's what drives clicks. It's what drives clicks. It's what drives views. And the moderate voices, the thoughtful voices in the room just get drowned out from the noise. I would venture to say that probably 60 to 70% of Americans fall somewhere in the middle and really don't believe a lot of the conspiracy. Yeah, cry night. A lot of those people don't believe the conspiracy theories and the, you know, the quacky QAnon stuff or you know, whatever. But we are just engulfed in this noise coming from the outer perimeters of extremism. And so I don't know if we want to change. I don't know if we can ever change, because I don't think people see a need for it. Like what is step 1 in Alcoholics Anonymous? Admit you have a problem, right? I don't think we know we've got a problem.
It's interesting. William in the, you know, says people want the world to be more interesting than it is. And that is a really important statement, because, you know, a lot of studies have been done on conspiracy theories, and like take the Kennedy assassination, for instance. Like, people don't want to live in a world where some guy can get a rifle and kill the president. They need there to be a conspiracy. They can't have life be that random. And that is part why, and I think maybe our end times teaching in evangelical worlds add to it, you know. So yeah. I think some people are trying to affirm their end time belief. They're rooting for wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes and things to say, yeah, there it is. See it? It's happening. And so, yeah, I think that's a really good point, William, that people just need the world to be something more orchestrated than perhaps it is. The Democrats, instead of being bumbling idiots, have to be pedophile Satan worshipers, right? Or something.
Yeah. And maybe evangelicalism plays into that more than we think, even with Easter and the resurrection. Like so much of evangelicalism is, here's this miracle thing that is going to fix all your problems. And we just want miraculous reasons, good or bad. It's not us, it's the devil, it's the demons, it's the strongholds over this country, and all it can, thoughts and prayers, that's all we can do. And there's going to be a savior, there's going to be Donald Trump, there's going to be somebody who's going to come and save us. And so it's like we're all believing in conspiracy theories to some extent, because, you know, you can look at the things that they're trying to do or say that they're trying to do. You know, we want to eradicate homelessness, and so we're going to hide all the homeless people away, so we're going to put people in jail, we're going to jail people for this now. We don't want abortion, so we're going to ban it. And it's like, but we have the facts, we have the science, we have the studies that tell you the things that you're trying to fix can be fixed very easily by healthcare and education and, you know, all of these simple practical things. But the people in power don't want that. Like, they want us to keep hoping for miracles and hoping for the savior, the one leader who's going to stand up and fix and change things. So I think it's just kind of bred into us, and it's helpful for the people at the top to stay at the top. So there's not much incentive to really change things.
And even the conspiracy theory that God has made a special deal with the United States, and we are God's hope on earth.
Who was our broker on this? Like who did we give our proxy to?
Yeah.
I need to speak with them right the fuck now.
And you know what's interesting about this, if you think of this in sort of biblical terms, there's a great Old Testament story about a prophet named Micaiah. Do you guys know this story? And Ahab and Jehoshaphat are talking about, do we go up and fight this war to get our land back? And they call all the prophets, and the prophets are like, yeah, we're God's people. You go up there and we're going to defeat them. And then Jehoshaphat asks, Ahab, do you have any more prophets? And he's like, well, there's this one, but he never has anything good to say. So they call Micaiah up and they say, if we go up, will we win this battle? And he says, yeah, go on up. You're going to win. And then he's like, wait a minute. You don't ever say anything good about me. And then Micaiah says, no, God told me to lie to you. And so the truth is, you're going to go up, you're going to lose, and you're going to be killed. And so they end up going up, and Ahab even dresses, he takes his king stuff off, and he still gets shot by a random arrow in the air. But the interesting thing is that, that prophets who partner with that nationalistic fervor throughout the Bible, in the time of Jeremiah, time of Jesus, are prophesying falsely that God needs this country to be successful on earth, whatever you see God as. And the religious people of Jesus' day were running around saying, we need to make Israel great again. That's how God's plan exists on earth. And Israel will be made great again when our race and our religion is put in charge of the country again, and the Romans are expelled. And it's no different. The evangelical belief is exactly the same. God needs America. America needs to be great, and America will be great when our race and religion are in charge. Exact same belief system.
Well, and I think that I think that that's so astute. And then what you were saying earlier about just needing the conspiracy theories or needing the discord to be, keeping things moving. I think it's almost in the American fabric to be rebellious. And so, like, instead of going 2 + 2 must equal 4, let's prove why it doesn't equal 4. We're going to find all the reasons why the other numbers don't work first. And then we'll eventually come back and be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So I think that I see that in just the way that we refute science, like Janice was saying. We actively, the evangelical culture, conservative evangelicalism in particular, just actively refutes science. They actively, the JFK link was a great one. Like, we can't live in a world that's so random where a guy can carry a rifle up into the 6th story of a building and shoot a moving car, a guy in a moving car. Like, we don't want that. Because then it means that not everything is holy, or not everything is mystical. Like, it's got to be just shit happens. And so they want to disconnect from the logic, and it's the thing that keeps them connected and grounded to this idea that their version of Christianity, their version of God, is the most important piece. And because once they start, it happened for all of us, right? Like, once we started seeing, kind of pulling at the thread, so to speak, and asking logical questions about the Bible and about God's character and about the person of Jesus and what he was really saying, like, the whole sweater started coming apart. And the conspiracy theories, the QAnon stuff, the insanity, all of that stuff is just literally them sticking their head in the sand and going, no, I refuse to pull on the sweater, because they know it's going to come apart.
Yeah. And it's scary. Growing up evangelical with this idea of, America, and America being this is a Christian nation and God is for us and whatever. And like there's a measure of safety that comes with that kind of thinking. And like it even becomes personal. And like, you know, most of my life I was like, oh, like nothing bad can really happen to me because I have a purpose. God has plans for me. So that's gonna supersede whatever. So that's my protection. And so it's very scary, you know, when you get to that place, you're like, oh, I don't believe in this anymore. And life is really random. And anything could happen to me at any time.
Yeah.
And so it's very to be untethered from that idea. It's terrifying for a little while, but then I got to a point where it's like, oh, actually, yeah, life is random and anything could happen at any minute for good or for bad. And I need to really be living this life and figuring out what my purpose is, what makes me happy, what do I want to do? Because I don't have any guarantees anymore. So I don't know. So I just have to live my life to the fullest, try to bring as much of myself as I can here. And yeah, because whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen.
That is like
And I have
super.
no
Sorry, Janice.
control. And that's the most control I've ever had. So
That is super astute because it is I need to be able to say all things work together for good, so I can live in that denial rather than no, some shit happens sometimes, and some of it I may be responsible to stand up and say this needs to stop. Yeah, I think that ties all the way to our need to know if I say this magic prayer, I'm going to heaven at the end, and those people are not.
Yeah, and even on the other side of that too, I love that as well, Janice. Even on the other side of that too is like sometimes shit happens and it's like nobody's fault, right?
Yeah.
Like when I mean I won't speak for everyone, but like when I was in evangelicalism, like everything had to have like a reason, you know.
Yep.
And there is something so freeing about like no, sometimes shit just happens. Like it just does. Like whether we want it to, don't want it to, it's not your fault, my fault, you know, it's nobody's fault. Like it just happens. And I think there's something really freeing in that because what I find in that is I'm not constantly blaming myself when there's not a direct place to put the blame.
All right, we went longer with that one. That was interesting, but let's talk tithing. And Judah Smith has himself in a little bit of trouble after our mid-roll here as Evangelicalish continues.
Do you want more of Evangelicalish? Go to our website, evangelicalish.com, and join our Ish community for bonus episodes and private Zoom hangouts where we expand on the topics we cover in the show. Levels start at just $5 a month. And we absolutely love the community that we've built here so far and are so appreciative of all the love and support. And now, back to the Evangelicalish podcast.
Janice, you brought this story to us, right? Oh, sorry, Jeremy.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
And that was Jeremy on the guitar there, by the way.
Man of many talents.
Oh, I have a single coming out Tuesday. So if y'all want to pre-save it, download it, buy it on iTunes, dust off the iTunes account and buy it on iTunes. Why? Because we want to jump on the iTunes charts again. So Bonnie and Clyde coming out on Tuesday, the same day I'm doing my TED Talk. Sorry, shameless plug. Go ahead, Janice.
Oh, speaking of shameless, yeah. So Judah Smith, lead pastor of Church Home, has been sued, him and the church, for employment law, basically. So they were making their employees pay tithes, and it's a condition of employment, and yeah, we're calling people out for it. And so one of the employees sued them because you can't do that in Seattle. Definitely, maybe in other places too. But yeah, you can't. Employers can't make you rebate any part of your check. So yeah, they're in a little legal trouble over there.
Oof. And this is a church that I think Russell Wilson is on the board. Justin Bieber is a regular attendee, I understand.
I tell you what, wherever Justin Bieber's going to church, you should probably not.
Yeah, no kidding.
He didn't. I'm not saying anything, Justin. Look, I'm sure you love Jesus a whole bunch, and I'm thankful for that. Like and I'm also a believer, like secretly. Don't worry about that. But, but like, I don't know, man. Last couple of affiliations this guy has made, the pastors ended up looking a little sketchy, but that's okay. We got Carl Lentz here. He's redeemed in Oklahoma.
He's redeemed and redeeming Oklahoma.
And redeeming. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at Redemption Church in Oklahoma. Yeah, so Judah Smith says that there was an expectation to leave a money trail by church staff members, that they were required to tithe, and that basically they were checking records and then going to these people and shaking them down. I mean, it sounds like old school tax collecting.
And so this young woman, young, maybe it's not the word. I'm old, so every woman is a young woman now. But she did not know this was a requirement of her employment, that she tithe, give 10% of her income on the gross. They require 10% of the gross.
Yeah.
Then she heard about it and she started tithing. Then she had a car accident and she didn't have cash to pay the bills and tithe. So she cut back on her tithing and she was called on the carpet for it.
Yeah, what's even better about this? I'm reading the extremely liberal Christianity Today article right now. It says that she was struck by a driver who failed to yield the right of way to her, and that her car was totaled, and she ended up in the ER. And so not only a wreck, but a wreck that wasn't even her fault. Mm-hmm. And so, but the supervisors over her noticed that she started slacking in her giving, and that it needed to be addressed as soon as possible because it was a part of her job performance.
Like, it's just so. It's like, how do you not see that you're missing the point? Like.
You never have the point.
I mean, I'm sure it didn't happen like this, but like, I just imagine like she's in a hospital bed and somebody walks in and they're like, "Hey, we're just wanting to check up on you because we noticed you haven't been tithing. When are you going to get back to that?" Because
yeah, hope the leg's fine.
But because
maybe your leg isn't healing because you're not given to the Lord.
This is a test, and you're currently failing it, and we don't want that for you. Yeah. So
let me be a devil's advocate here. Can a church require you to tithe? Like employment law, I live in California, and our employment law is about probably as difficult as any place in the country. Maybe New York is there with this, Janice. But even in California, churches get a pretty big leeway to hire towards their religious practice. And if tithing is something you say is a requirement of your religious practice, can you then require that of your employees? Is that a religious freedom thing? Even though I think we all would agree that church should have been helping her with money rather than demanding money from her. Legally, should they be able to do that?
I mean, it's a tricky situation. But then I guess I would say, well, if that's part of your religious practice, you're going to have to prove that to me. Like, because yeah, I mean, the first part of the argument is tithing even valid? I would say no.
Where are you guys on tithing?
If somebody was going to force it on me, and this is the condition of your employment, then I would say, all right, well, I'm tithing my time here.
Mhm.
I'm tithing my
Mhm.
energy. Do you want me to bring 10% of my spices? True old world Bible style? Like, do you want
Because you were giving way more than 10% at Hillsong, weren't you?
Listen, I will go buy a can of corn for the church. I will do it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go grocery shopping and 10% of what I buy I'm gonna bring here. That's
How do you
we're
want
gonna
the
do
ice
the
cream?
true tithe. Yeah.
You can't keep my Tupperware. Okay, so
Well, if it's a set of 10, you can keep one piece.
oh yeah. Very true. It's good.
We
It's a good
we
point.
used to have very spirited conversations in pastors' meetings I was in of, no, the tithe is not a requirement of the New Testament church because the law, it was finished by Jesus on the cross. And then other people would say, but Abraham tithed before the law. Tithe was pre-law. Therefore, the tithe is for everyone.
So
And if the tithe is for everyone, then I should be able to give my 10% to anyone.
yeah, that's exactly right. So the church that I pastor, I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, churches are um, not for profit, and they're not selling a product. Like we're not, we don't have merchandise. I mean, I guess some churches do, but like we don't. Um, and so we do need support to pay for rent and just different things like that. Just actual needs. I mean, um, but the way we do it is we do not pass a bucket or a plate or anything like that. We do everything online. We do it through a third party provider, so we don't even touch credit card information or anything like that. And what we say is at the beginning of the service, we'll mention, hey, if you want to give, here's a place to do that. But there is no requirement to do so. We don't we don't want anybody to feel obligated to that by any stretch of the imagination. But if you'd like to tithe in, like what Janice was saying, and we say this every week, if you would like to tithe in other ways, here's a way where you can get involved, right? Like if you want to give a gift of your time, your efforts, your resources, like whatever the case is for you, like if you feel led, like I want to give, it doesn't have to be money. But if you just want to sit and be, like what so many churches complain about, consumer Christians, people who just sit on the back row and walk out. I don't care like that, because at the end of the day, what it's about is community and healing and loving one another. Those are the main things. And this may be the most evangelical thing I've said in a while, but I believe that if we're doing the right thing, I do trust God for the resources to keep the doors open. Like I do. And so I'm not going to demand it from people. I'm just not. Some people are going to choose to give monetarily. Other people are going to choose to give their time. Some people are just going to show up and enjoy being there. And all of that should be okay.
Would I be a massive heretic if I said God never wrote a check to my church when I was pastoring? Like I never got a single donation from God.
Physically signed by God.
Yeah.
He gave you his word.
Gotcha.
66 book love letter. That is priceless. How dare you?
The church has always had, we have a very funky relationship with money. And there's a real move on social media, tax the church. And I always try to avoid jumping into sort of things that I look at and say, well, there's a little bit of a mob mentality there. There's nuance to that discussion, but I got to admit, things like this, I see stories like this and I start to say, and then particularly when churches are hosting Donald Trump, these things, I start saying, yeah, I'm starting to fall on that tax the church thing, because I really believe, and I used to have these conversations in my pastoral circles, the 501c3 status, a not-for-profit status of a church, I believe is a covenant between the 501c3 organization, the church, and the community. And it's saying, okay, we're not going to pay taxes, but we're going to provide a value to the community that makes it worth it to the community for us not to pay taxes. And some of these mega churches are on huge plots of land in prime property real estate areas, and they don't pay a dime of property tax to help with police and schools and roads for the community. And I think if we do that, if we take that tax-free status and don't meet that covenant, it's just flat out fucking sin. I'm sorry. It's just evil.
Yeah.
And I don't think many churches are providing that benefit to their community, even though they think they're just providing the benefit by existing. And I think maybe it's time to ask the churches, and this is scary territory, I understand constitutionally, but prove to us your value to the community.
That is exactly what I was going to say. I think that I don't think we should blanket say tax the churches, right? I think what we should require is for them to file their version, because listen, it is not required for them to file their financial tax return every year,
right,
or audits, whatever. I think we should require them to file a report, and in that report, how much money was used internally and how much money was used inside of your community. And you set a percentage and you go, if you did not meet this percentage threshold, we will now tax you on your donations for the year, or the amount that was used internally. So if you're like really heavy on, talking about another Seattle church that was around, we alluded to Mark Driscoll earlier, so if you're Mars Hill and you're paying your pastor just exorbitant amounts of money, your overhead, expenses are exorbitantly high because of staff and things like that. I absolutely think you should be paying taxes. Absolutely. But for churches that are working really hard to pour resources back into the community, food pantry or, homeless, soup kitchen, clothing closet, whatever. If you're doing those things and you can say, hey, look, 50% or whatever that we receive goes back into our community, then sure, take your tax break because you're pouring back in.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm thinking about like Hillsong right now, and even the things we did for community, it was still like the people doing it. So when they, we're going to have a back to school drive and we're going to get these backpacks for, kids in the neighborhood. Hillsong wasn't like buying the supplies. Like they would maybe buy the backpacks, but then it's still, and now all of you, please bring notebooks and pencils and the things to put in these bags. And so it's just, I don't know. It's like these things have gone so far. And again, nobody's watching and they've just been able to run for however long. And I think even the people in churches don't necessarily know their rights. Like we know, it's tax exempt, but we don't know what that means or what that's supposed to mean. So all we know is, well, I give my money and I get my, put it on my taxes. So that helps me. Yeah. And I assume my church is doing the right thing because they're doing it.
You hear it all the time from right wingers that, hey, we're the most charitable people there are, but they're counting the money they give to upgrade the sound system in their church building or to get more comfortable chairs. I mean, it's money totally given for themselves rather than to do good in the community. And we did a study in a church network that I was on the board of, and most churches use about 80% of their income on staff and building. It's about 80%. Mm-hmm. And of that other 20%, it's almost all used internally. They do very little outside the walls of the church. So at very least, if you're tax-free, if you're property tax-free, then the government ought to be able to say, hey, we're having a natural disaster megachurch. We're putting people in your building. We've been paying for your building for a long time as a community, and we're going to use your building to help people now.
And the question is, why would you not do that anyway?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why are we getting stories about Joel Osteen leaving his church, gigantic ass church, closed when there's been a hurricane. Like
It's
that,
an it's
that
an
is
arena, not
insane.
it's not a gigantic ass church. It's an arena.
Yeah, that's where the Houston Rockets used to play.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just baffles me that wouldn't be at the heart of the church anyway. Like, even if you were like to say, like, look, we don't have a ton of space, but like we can take, X number of people, like it may feel like an underwhelming number to those outside, but at least you did something. I understand restraints and restrictions, and like I get all of that, like to an extent, but like to just say no, our doors are closed is asinine when your community is in desperation. So we need to see you pouring back into the community. We need to see you putting your hands and feet to work in your communities, or you're not a nonprofit. Like you are not a community aid. And that is why you qualify for nonprofit status.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, I get the fear, but it's not taking away religious freedom. It says you can meet in a building and do whatever your religion asks you to do, but we don't have to pay for it as a community. We don't have to underwrite it. And by the way, maybe people don't understand that the pastors of these churches get huge tax breaks. As a pastor, I used to like blush a little bit with getting this housing allowance thing. And I'm like, if anybody ever finds out that I have this tax break, they are going to shit their pants. Because I could write off my housing expense like every other American can do. And then I got a housing allowance, which was for house, for furniture, for electricity, for lawn guy. And that was like taken out of my income. So the IRS didn't even get to see that amount of money as income for me. So it's a double tax break. So when Joel Osteen has a 20-car garage mansion, that all is taken off his income as taxable income. Mm-hmm. It's an incredible scam. And it was made because we thought churches were always going to be poor with poor pastors. We never knew they were going to be the money-making machines they've become now with the ultra wealthy superstar pastors that we have now.
And what's sad is that unfortunately it's kind of like car insurance, right? Like your rates continue to go up because of the idiots who drive drunk or whatever the case is. Speaking of megachurch pastors, Brian Houston in the news this week with his DUI. But
Brian Houston had a DUI.
Oh yeah. Got arrested. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. That's a whole nother, we'll have to go through that, cause Janice was sharing some information about that earlier that it's pretty sketchy, but, what's sad is that I've been in those small, like rural communities. Like early on in my career, I served in a place where there were more cows than people, literally. And there's pastors inside of those communities working so hard to support people. Like just honestly, it's the thing that makes me not just completely give up on the community, what is church or what is Christian community, because I've seen it in those spaces. But they're the ones that are going to suffer. Yeah. Because these mega church pastors are going to ruin the tax breaks and the things that these guys who are making $26,000 a year and living in a house owned by the church, those guys need that, right? Mm-hmm. Like they need those opportunities to be able to bring as much home as possible. But it's going to be ruined by these mega church pastors who are just using it to game the system, constantly just game the system. And it just makes you want to vomit.
It does make me ask, I'm trying to think how to frame this. Did Jesus ever say, I want you to have the coolest building with the best sound system, the best air conditioning system? I mean, if that's where our money is going, maybe we need to evaluate, at least in this season. And I love the beautiful temples and structures and all those things, but I just think I think we're in a time where maybe we need to rethink, is this where our money is supposed to be going?
Right.
Right.
And
I
then
don't think.
also,
Go ahead, Janice.
well, thinking about it from the, community benefit aspect, it's like also so many of these churches are harmful to so much of the community. Like imagine you're here and you're not paying property taxes and you're anti queer folk, like you're anti black, like you're like whatever rhetoric you're putting out. Not only are you not like adding to this community, but you're adding harm to it, or whatever you're offering is not for the whole community. Like, so it seems like there should also be, I don't know, just levels to this. And all right, you're anti-gay, well then that's this percent of the community that you're not serving, so we're gonna have to tax you at least that much. Or you don't have any black people here, okay, well that's this percent of this community.
X amount of your community you are not going to write off.
You're not serving. Like, but who's gonna watch all that and keep
Well,
tabs?
and in our community, a church tried to buy the historical theater in what is our creative arts and basically our queer district of our town, which is a really cool place. And our queer community came out and protested it every Sunday for months, until the city finally said, okay, no, we're not going to let this happen. And the city bought the theater and said, you're not going to rent to the church, because there is no trust. The church was there saying, we're not going to change anything. We'll still let real pride happen and the gay event, the queer events happen. And people were like, we don't trust you. It is not trustworthy, particularly the evangelical church. And I told all my friends in that community, and yes, do not trust them, because all it takes is one big tither to say, why are we having this gay pride film festival? And it goes away.
Right.
Because we're funky about money.
Right.
All right, we're over our.
Like cabs used to be in New York, where there's only a certain amount of tokens. So, you got to do whatever to qualify for it. So there's only a certain amount of churches that can get tax exempt status, and you gotta prove it. You gotta put your paperwork in, and then and if your community's not coming through and saying, no, we need them here, and this is what they've done, and we like it, then you can still be a church, but you just don't get to be tax exempt.
Ooh, that's a great idea. And in our city, they do that for fireworks stands too. And you, if you qualify, you get it for 2 years, and then you gotta go after it again.
Yeah,
I love that. Actually.
That is a thought.
That is genius.
All right, we're over our time with great stuff, and so we didn't get to hit Easter, but Janice has a great moral dilemma for us tonight.
Yes.
Yes. So I saw this meme the other day, and it said, you're offered 50,000, but if you accept it, the person you hate most in the entire world gets 100,000. Are you taking it? And then someone commented and said, well, that's just called having a job. So my moral dilemma for you guys tonight is, you can get any amount of money, but the ministry, the pastor, the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, whoever you can't stand the most is going to get double that amount of money.
Oof.
How much money are you asking for?
Couldn't we play which pastor would you throw off the boat first instead? That would be easier.
So here's my thought on this. Okay, I'm gonna ask for 1 cent, so I can give Joel Osteen my 2 cents.
All right. So I'm looking at this Fox number, 787.5 million. Round it to 800 million. Would I take $800 million if Donald Trump got 1.6 billion? Oh man. I could really use $787.5 million.
It's a good point. Like, I mean, are we really gonna, of course, I don't know. Trump may not have it like that anymore.
He doesn't. He
Everything
don't
I
know
hear.
like that.
The dude isn't selling those embarrassing NFTs if he's super, super
Yeah,
wealthy.
my digital card, it's huge.
I think I would be lying if I said I wouldn't take the money. I'm sorry.
I couldn't do it, man.
I could
Couldn't do it.
I could do some good with that money.
Yeah, you could do some good, but they can do double the bad. Like that's the problem. Is like you are. It's like being for the rights of women, but then like funding Al Qaeda. It just
That's true.
like I don't know, man. I don't know.
So, in other words, you're talking about being in Congress, is what you're saying. Would you take that money if it cost all the citizens of your country dearly? And the answer is always yes. It appears. It seems to be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to be crass, but I mean, how many senators and representatives have gone, it sucks there's a bunch of dead kids, but golly, they give to my campaign fund every year. So let them write those checks. I mean, that's really, and that's what we're asking ourselves, I think, at this point, like not to take the fun out of it, but like, I mean, are we willing to give things that we hate, despise, walked away from? Are we willing to fund those so that we can have success?
What's your answer, Janice?
Well, so a few weeks ago, I had an incident where the bank, there was a fraudulent transaction, whatever. So I lost a bunch of money. And then I had a friend that just gave me $2,000. And I just had this moment where I was like, that's not, in the scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. But it is a lot of money. And one good thing about being poor is like, I was just so grateful. I was like, oh, like $2,000 can literally change my life. And rich people can't say that. And so I think I would take $5,000. That would literally rock my world, could change everything for me. And that would mean nothing to a Carl Lentz,
I hear what you're saying.
a Brian Houston, to whatever. Yeah, it's double what I got, but it's trash to you guys. And you waste so much anyway. It would be nothing to you. And that's not a whole lot of money, but it's life-changing for me. So
I think doing the science, really boiling it down and going, what is that exact dollar amount that will change my life and not change theirs?
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
You might, I love that.
Because you could even, you could probably make it $20K.
Yeah.
And $40K doesn't do that much for the super wealthy.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't know. I still I fight with the morality of it. Right. But like, I wish I was evangelical still, because I'd be like, God will provide this tenfold. Like God, like if I just do what's right, God will make it rain racks out of the sky. For some reason, it hasn't happened yet, but like I'm chilling. I'm holding.
Have you been tithing?
I tithe my time, Janice. No, actually, all seriousness, I just don't take a paycheck. Like from my church.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But we're super small. I mean, we're trying to be a progressive church in the middle of Oklahoma. So, there's only so many people going to show up on a Sunday. Like it ain't New York.
Well, and and there is a principle here of like, my wife and I, we tried to, we got up to well over 10% in our giving, and we did that sort of as, okay, we're going to sacrifice and see if blessing comes from it. And I think there is a karmic, call it, principle of if money doesn't have a hold on me, good things are going to be drawn to me. But if it's the, serving mammon versus being freely generous. I really think there is that principle there, and I think we did see it. So I think there is an argument to be made that 10% of your income to do charitable giving has some real value, and maybe that's why the level was there. But once it's required, and I used to argue too, and if you're getting a tax break for it, does that mean you have an earthly reward rather than a heavenly reward if you're taking the tax break for it? Mm-hmm. But I sure as hell know those 4 weeks of December, we were like, hey, get your tithe in. If you don't have it in by December 31st, you can't write it off.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
So I stand before you a massive hypocrite.
Pimp the tax breaks.
I mean, I'm embarrassed by it all now. You do the offering and you bring up the person to give the testimony. We gave 5,000 to the church and God gave us 50,000 when we went to Vegas. It was amazing.
When we went to Vegas.
So,
but they never call that devil's money. They're never like, nah, we're not going to take your blackjack
reclaimed
money.
it. We're redeeming this devil's money.
We're taking that money from the devil.
How do you wash it in the blood when it's digital? You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, maybe you take the cash and do some kind of weird thing. But at this point, what are you doing? Hail Mary full of grace on the computer? I don't, you miss me with that.
All right. So we're not all on
believe, giving is good. And just as a principle, So take whatever percent you can and give to whatever you want, to whatever matters to you.
Yeah.
And only good can come from that. So
that's right.
Well, I love your strategy, Janice. And
that's pretty great.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And gosh, I wish we could get, and some of it's the system, but get our elected officials to say no. All of them say no to the influential money. I mean, I think we would have health care for people. We would be way less flippant about guns. This, 6-week abortion ban in Florida. I mean, all of these things. And the great thing about that for DeSantis is one of his big givers is nope, we're not giving anymore. That 6-week ban on abortion is too far. But yeah, a whole lot of beautiful things would happen if our elected officials weren't being showered with money.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right.
Just find a few honest ones that say, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Fun stuff, guys.
All right, y'all.
Thanks, Janice, for hanging out with us again.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for listening.
No April of Joy, but it's been a April of Janice, and it's been
April of Janice. Hey.
We miss you, April. We've had a lot of fun having Janice here.
All right. Yeah. Super.
Okay, wait. We are off for the next 2 weeks. I checked the calendar, and the next 2 weeks we are off.
Do not lie to these people.
I am not lying this time.
You're already dead anyway. But try to at least play like you're trying. No. Anyway, super grateful for Janice and Paul and the opportunity to do shows like this, because I think we're talking about meaningful, impactful things that are challenging, and they're good conversations. So give us a like, give us a follow on all the social media platforms, and then also download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, let people know why they should be listening to Evangelicalish as well. And so anyway, we're off for 2 weeks or so, Paul says. We'll see what happens. No, I'm kidding.
That's the rumor right now.
Yeah, the rumor is.
Let's see if this prophecy comes to pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Love you all.